Hi, I Like Knitting. This is Heidi Gusted, the designer behind this pineapple-inspired shawl. Today I want to walk you through how to actually work the pineapple stitch that I custom designed for this pattern. So to work this design, you're going to need a crochet hook in addition to your yarn and knitting needles. So to form this stitch, we're going to work over 4 rows, a 12 stitch repeat. So on my needles here, I have 12 stitches cast on. So the first thing we're going to do is do the row of this pineapple stitch that uses our crochet hook. So what we've got here is a little bit of garter stitch and then several rows of stockinette stitch. And into that stockinette stitch, we're going to use our crochet hook to create the top of our pineapple. So if you're envisioning a pineapple in your head, we're knitting it from the top spiky part down to the bottom. So in our work, the top spiky part will be down here over the stockinette stitch, and then the body of the pineapple will be formed here, but we'll get to that shortly. So what we're going to do is start out by knitting 5 into our set of 12 stitches. And 5. Next, what we're going to do is grab our crochet hook. And what we need to do is grab our working yarn through the stockinette stitch here in our work. So this loop that's next on our left-hand needle is where we're going to center these 5 long loops that I'm about to pull up. So to get these distributed evenly, what I'm going to do is count 1, so that's 1 row of stitches under that knit stitch, 2 under this knit stitch, and 3. We're going to count over to this 3rd column of stitches, and I'm going to work in the 2nd stitch below the 3rd loop on our left-hand needle. So I'm going to pierce through that loop with my crochet hook to the back of my work. Then I'm going to hook the working yarn and pull it through that loop that I just stabbed my crochet hook into. And we're going to pull that loop up and put it on our left-hand needle. You're going to want to leave it fairly loose so that it doesn't make your work pucker as you go. We're going to pick up 4 more loops to finish forming the top of this pineapple. So that first one we pulled up in the 2nd stitch below the 3rd needle, or the 3rd stitch on our left-hand needle. Next, we're going to pick up a long loop through the 3rd stitch below the 2nd stitch. I'll say that one more time so you don't get confused. We're going to pick up another loop through the 3rd stitch below the 2nd loop on our left-hand needle. So 1, 2, 3 loops. And again, we'll grab that working yarn, draw it through, and put it on top of our left-hand needle. And as I'm working, I'm going to keep playing with these elongated loops, again, to not mess up the tension and cause any puckering in the shawl as we knit this pineapple stitch. Next, we're going to pull up a 3rd loop, and we're going to pull up through the 4th stitch below the next loop on our left-hand needle. So everything is getting kind of covered up by these elongated stitches, but we know that we were at 1, 2, 3 stitches, and we're going to go through this 4th opening below that loop and hook a stitch and put that loop on our left-hand needle again. I'm working this with my swatch laid kind of flat, mostly so you can see it. It's not quite this awkward when you're actually working this stitch in the context of a larger piece like this shawl, but just keep that in mind as you watch this tutorial. So next we need to pull up 2 more loops, and we're going to pull them from stitches under the right-hand side's loops. So next we need to go 1, 2, 3 loops below the 1st loop on our right-hand needle. And we're going to grab another loop and pull it up to the left hand, and then to pull up the last stitch to form the top of our pineapple, we're going to go in the 2nd, so 1, 2, 2nd stitch below the 2nd loop on our right-hand needle. And we will draw that working yarn through. There we go. And place it on top of our left-hand needle. So luckily, that right there is the hardest part of working this pineapple stitch, I promise. So we've got all of these 5 loops that we pulled up here onto the left-hand needle. Now we're going to take our right-hand needle and pull all 5 of those over to the right needle, like so. And if you want your pineapples to look very uniform, just make sure that they're all angled the same way so that they're not twisted on your needle. So if this stitch was this way with the left half of the loop at the front, that would be twisted. So if you want them all the same way, just make sure the right half of that elongated loop is to the right. Next, what we're going to do is knit 1 and then grab all 5 of these loops and pass them over that one we just knit. And this gathers all of those loops into one cluster, forming the top of our pineapple. Then, to finish this first row, we're just going to knit 6. Now, if you're working the actual shawl that uses this stitch, you'll keep going, forming a whole bunch of pineapple tops all the way along your row. And then you'll turn your work to work the next part of this pineapple stitch. But for demonstration's sake, we're going to just pretend that this set of 12 stitches is what the entire row is. So now what we need to do, we're on row 2, which is a wrong side row, which looks like this. You can see little tails from where we elongated those stitches. And we're going to purl 5, and then we'll knit 3. And this knit 3 should be centered right around where that cluster of stitches we just made is. So we're going to knit 1, and then the second stitch that we knit is the stitch that we made our pineapple cluster in on the other side. We knit 1 more, and then we purl to finish that row, and we're purling 4. All right, so that's row 2. And now row 3 is the next most exciting part of this stitch. So what we've got to do is work what essentially is a bobble stitch, if you've ever worked that before, and we're doing a garter stitch bobble with slip stitches or a chain edge on each side, and this forms the body of the pineapple. So we're going to knit 8, five, 6, 7, and 8. So what we've done here is knit just past, so 1 stitch past those 3 stitches we knit on the other side of our work. So we've got these 3 purl bumps from the knit stitches on the other side, and we've knit 1 past them. Now we're going to turn our work, even though we've got these 4 extra stitches on the left side, we're going to turn our work to work the next part of this row. So to do the next part, we're going to slip 1 as if to purl, and then knit 4. So with 3 stitches remaining on our left needle, we're going to turn our work 1 more time. And we're going to keep doing this slip with the yarn in front, purlwise, knit 4. We're going to do that 7 total times to form most of the body of the pineapple. There's our next one. So we've done 1, 2. Now we're going to turn our work and do our third. 1, 2, 3, 4. Turn once again. Slip 1, knit 4. And you'll know you're doing this right when you only are working across these 5 stitches. So the 4 stitches here and the 3 stitches here just kind of hang out until you finish knitting the body of the pineapple. So we're going to turn again, do another slip 1, knit 4. And that slip stitch edge helps define the right and left sides of your pineapple, which gives it a little bit of pop as it sticks out from your row. So where are we at? 1, 2, 3, All right. So we're going to need to do, we're looking for a count of 4 total garter ridges from this row. So there's our first ridge, second ridge, third ridge, and now we'll do our 4th ridge, and that will be our last turn of this slip 1 knit 4. So we'll turn again, and now we're ready to finish this row. So we're going to slip 1, and then to finish this off, we're going to knit 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4. The first 4 stitches finish off the body of that pineapple right there, and now we'll knit 4 more to finish this 12 stitch repeat. So there's a lot of stitches in row 3, which is a right side row, by the way, of this pineapple stitch, but you can see the pineapple shape coming together. To finish this guy off, we're going to do one more wrong side row, which is really simple knits and purls, and all we've got to do is purl 5, knit 3, and that forms the very bottom edge of the pineapple, and then finish off by purling 4. So there's 1, and there will be a big gap here because we did all those stitches back and forth on the previous row. So make sure you purl this next stitch a little bit tight to close that gap. That would be my pro tip for success on this shawl. All right, and so just like that, you can see the pineapple completely formed using our elongated 5 stitches at the top of the pineapple, our easy wrong side sets of 3 knit stitches at the top and bottom, and the body of the pineapple right here, which we formed by working a bobble stitch inspired set of garter stitches to really round out the body of that pineapple. So this is the shawl where you can see the pineapple stitch in all its glory. In this piece, there's actually 36 total pineapples that you work, so you'll get real used to it. And you can see here in this corner where the pineapples have come together really cutely in this little sport weight shawl. And I used some really fun, kind of springy, bright colored yarn to really add to the whole tropical pineapple vibe. And also this shawl includes a picot bind off that adds just a little bit of fun texture and really makes the most of the garter stitch that you see throughout this piece. So I hope you enjoy this pattern and this custom pineapple stitch. I'm really looking forward to finding new ways to incorporate the pineapple stitch in future designs. Thanks so much for watching.